Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're starting off something of a series, and it's titled, they didn't serve very long, but they're still pretty cool rifles. And the first rifle we want to feature in the series is the 1873 breech-loading Trapdoor Rifle. But before we get into the history of this rifle and what makes it unique, guys, if you enjoy our content, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. A surprisingly small number of you that watch our videos take a moment just to click that subscribe button, so please do that now. Again, if you enjoy the content. Also, comment down below. It helps us with the algorithms, and we love reading those comments. With all that being said, let's get started with today's video. I get asked the question all the time, Mac, how can I get involved in the firearms industry? One of the best ways to get involved in the firearms industry is to go to an accredited college like SDI or the Sonoran Desert Institute. We'd like to thank those guys over at SDI for helping to support us here at the Military Arms Channel. We've known and worked with them for many years. And if you'd like to learn more about getting into gunsmithing or just finding a job somewhere in the firearms industry, be it in sales or manufacturing, please check out sdi.edu and learn more about the programs that they offer. So this is the 1873 Trapdoor Springfield. Now this would be the first widely adopted breech-loading metallic cartridge firing rifle by the U.S. military. In 1866, there was a predecessor to this that was limited in use, but this rifle that you see here was adopted by Big Army in both the rifle version that you see here and also a carbine version of the gun. So this is the full rifle version, and there would be different variations of the gun throughout its service life, which was relatively short. It was adopted in 1873, and by 1892 it was replaced by another rifle, which was a bolt action, and we'll talk about that rifle in a future video after we get done talking about the 1873 Trapdoor. Now you can also talk about the old Sharps rifle. The Sharps rifle originally used a nitrided paper cartridge with a bullet at the top. You would push it in, close the breech, it would shave off the rear, the paper cartridge, put a percussion cap on it and fire it. That gun also transitioned later into being able to shoot metallic cartridges like this 4570, which was the standard load for the Trapdoor Springfield that we see here. So, being that first metallic cartridge rifle that was widely adopted by the U.S. Army, it was an interesting learning process for the Army. Now, guys, I am not a historian. I don't even play one on YouTube. If you want really good historical information about firearms like this, there are a couple of websites or YouTube channels out there. CN Arsenal is a great way to go, and also Ian over at Forgotten Weapons. They can do deep dives into different variations and the whole history and development of the gun. That's above my pay grade. I'm just a collector, and so I'm going to give you kind of the 30,000-foot view. And I may make some mistakes. That's what the comment sections are for down below. All right, so the trapdoor. Why is it called a trapdoor? It's because of the mechanism you see right here. Now, if you look at the weapon in this area, it very much looks like a muzzle-loading, early rifle or musket that would have been used by the U.S. military. That's because it pretty much is. You have the lock work here on the side, an exposed hammer that rides on the side of the firearm, and so it very much looks like a musket, but it is in fact obviously a breech-loading rifle. So I'm going to pull the gun back to half cock. And once I do that, there's a little lever right here by my index finger. You push up on that lever and the trapdoor flips open. And that's where it gets its name, trapdoor. So now to load the weapon, you take a 4570 cartridge. It means it has a 45 caliber bullet with 70 grains of black powder. This, however, is a smokeless load that is trapdoor safe. The ammunition is from Stenel, and this is, as you can see on the end, trapdoor safe ammunition. If you're shooting one of these old guns and you're not shooting black powder, make sure you do not shoot modern 4570 in it. You can blow the gun up. It's not designed to handle super high pressures. It is a black powder firearm. All right, so you just throw a cartridge in there and then you close this trapdoor behind it. Now the weapon is ready for use. I can put the hammer right here where it's not touching the firing pin, which is integrated into the trapdoor right here. And then when the weapon's to be ready for firing, just grab it, pull it to full cock, and now you have a rear sight, which is just a blade here in the rear, a V-notch in the rear, and a simple blade in the front. The rear sight can be flipped up for extended range. And with the 4570, with a muzzle velocity of right around 1350, it's not exactly a fast-moving bullet, so you will have quite a bit of bullet drop at extended ranges, which is why that rear sight is necessary. All right, so let's take a shot at our man-size steel target at 100 and see what we get here. So, back in the day, if you read reports, they'd say that this thing had tremendous kick. 2 men would fall when the gun was fired. I believe that's the trapdoor they were talking about. First of all, the bad guy that you shot, and then the guy that pulled the trigger. In reality, the recoil really isn't all that much. I've shot rifles that have much more recoil. All right, to unload the gun, so I've just fired it. The hammer's in the down position. I pull it back 2 clicks, and that allows me to flip this lever again. Now watch what the gun's going to do. It's going to eject its spent cartridge. Flips it right out of there, so then all you have to do is throw another one in, close the breech, and the gun's ready to go. Very fast, considering what the weapons looked like before the Trapdoor Springfield in use by the military. So it really was an improvement in terms of being able to reload the gun very quickly and then get back into the shooting position with the weapon once you've reloaded it. So it's really an interesting rifle for sure. Now, the early guns, from what I've read, actually used a copper, not brass, but a copper case. And the copper has a tendency to expand much more quickly than brass, cools a little bit more slowly, and it would stick in the chamber of the guns. And so they would use a cleaning ramrod to get the stuck case out, or they'd use the tip of a knife to pry it out. This became an issue. They thought at Custer's Last Stand, they thought perhaps the copper cartridges caused, them to lose the battle, whatever, and it turned out, I think, if I remember reading correctly, like 3.5% of the spent cases found showed any signs of knife marks on the rim. But regardless, the military decided brass was the way to go, so they upgraded from copper to brass. That resolved any of the sticking case issues with the 1873 Trapdoor, and the gun continued on military service again until it was replaced. But it's a very, very fun gun to shoot. All right, let's walk it out to 150 here. You can tell when that pill hits, man. It is a, we got a 405 grain lead bullet, hard cast lead bullet. Now watch, here we go. I'm going to open this slowly, and you can kind of see once that lid, or that trapdoor gets right about there, it already has a little tiny lip inside there that's underneath the rim of the cartridge. And when you push it down, it just kind of springs out and kicks it right out of the chamber. It's really kind of cool. That's part of the thing I love about the Trapdoor, is that loading action. The sights are, I have to aim way low. There we go. Such a cool mechanism. The rifle's a lot of fun to shoot, and as long as you can find good ammunition for it, you can certainly load for it as well, and you can certainly shoot black powder or Pyrodex substitutes through it. Just make sure that you clean the guns fairly well after shooting black powder for obvious reasons. It's highly corrosive. But you'll find many times guns like this at gun shows and places like that. I know we get them into copper every once in a while. We have a local collector that will bring in guns he'll want to sell every once in a while. We'll see him show up there. And most of the time, I've seen really good bores on them. So they were well taken care of by the troops that had them when they were using corrosive black powder, because this one has a really good bore on it. I have another rifle that has a really good bore on it, and a carbine that has a really good bore on it. But you probably will find some that have frosted bores and things like that. But giving them a good home is certainly a noble thing to do, because this thing is absolutely beautiful, and it's just a pure joy to shoot. Let's do a little bit of shooting at 150 yards with some of these 405 grain pills. I just love shooting the gun. I just can't get enough of shooting the trapdoor. When you're looking at a trapdoor to purchase, there are a lot of different things that you're going to want to look at to make sure that you're getting an original rifle or carbine. The carbines many times will be faked. As with any collectible firearm, you'll find people faking certain things, making fake carbines. They won't have the right sights on them, things like that. So before you invest money into something like this, make sure you know what it is that you're buying. Do a little bit of research to make sure that everything matches up. Now this trapdoor, it's a little bit more complex than perhaps I first led on. So it's really interesting how this whole mechanism works. So I've already told you, you flip the lever up, put the breech forward to load the gun. There's the ejector right there next to my index finger. And I'll kind of show you how that works. When you open the hatch, you'll see that little thing kick back. But when it kicks the shell back, there's also this raised area inside the receiver, if you will. And it fits inside this little hole on top of the trapdoor bolt. Well, what does that do? Well, when the spent case comes out of the chamber, the rim will hit this piece and it'll ramp it up and flick it out of the action. Otherwise, if it didn't have that little piece in there, when that ejector kicked the spent case out, just hit the rear of the breech face and just stop and would lay in the action. You'd have to roll and throw it out. So it flicks it back, the rim hits that little ramp, and that's what shoots it up and out of the action. Pretty cool. We got a lot of wind out there today. I'm going to see if I can get a 200-yard hit here. Boy, you can really see that 405 grain pill move that target. Pull it back 2 clicks. You'll see it flip it up and out. And grab another round and stick it in there. Also, when they're using those copper cases, when they'd carry them in leather pouches and it would sweat, the copper would get that green corrosion around it, and that would almost weld that case in the chamber when it was fired, which is another reason why brass makes a lot more sense than copper. Oh, that one went off the right side. You can also see when this big bullet misses because it kicks up a lot of dirt. We have a good 30-mile-an-hour crosswind out there today. It's really, really bad. There we go, 200. That never gets old, watching it kick that spent case out, and it never skips a beat. If you flip that trapdoor open with any authority whatsoever, just in regular motion, it consistently kicks that spent case out, and I've never seen it malfunction. So, obviously, going to a brass case made a heck of a lot of sense. As I'd mentioned in the beginning of the video, the 1873 Springfield simply didn't serve that long in military service. By 1892, the U.S. military started to move towards this rifle, and this is the Craig Jorgensen in 3040 Craig, and we will talk about this in our next episode of it didn't serve very long in the military, but it's still a pretty darn good rifle. So, the 1873 Springfield. If you're going to pick one up, as I'd mentioned earlier in the video, do your research to make sure you don't get taken advantage of and buy something that you overpay for that isn't perhaps what you think it is, and that's true of all military collectibles. When we get into the next episode and we talk about this rifle, this is definitely one of my favorite bolt-action rifles of military history, and we'll go into that in the next video. The 3040 Craig goes from the trapdoor action of the 1873. You'll notice there's a big difference between the 3040 Craig and the 4570 of the trapdoor. Big difference. We'll talk all about that in the video about this rifle in the next episode. Nice thing about this is you can just throw rounds into that magazine, and the gun has one of the smoothest bolt actions of all time. All right, guys, if you would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There's a link down below. Click that link and consider becoming part of that family. You get early access to videos like this one. You get direct access to me. I answer all private communications, and we've built a really cool community over there where people interact with each other. Again, link down below to patreon.com. Also, guys, right here on YouTube, there's a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Give that join button a click and consider supporting us right here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you for 13 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon.